How's it going, everyone? It's Ethan here with eTrailer. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Swagman CURRENT e-bike rack on the back of our 2022 GMC Sierra. First thing we're going to need to do is get the actual rack into the hitch. We have an 1.25 inch shank here with our 2x2 inch adapter sleeve that fits into our 2-inch receiver tube. We found that once you basically line up the adapter sleeve with the outside of the receiver tube, then your pinhole will probably be lined up pretty okay. If it's not, you just wiggle it up and down a little bit till you get to where you need it to go. I think that should be okay. Comes with an anti-rattle bolt that we feed through, and you should be able to hand thread it a good amount of the way, probably having to lift the actual bike rack up while you do so. To get the hitch into the receiver tube, you will have to use a 3/4 inch socket wrench, which does not come with it, but we do sell them here at eTrailer. Now just tighten that down until you get to the point where you want it to be. Then we can slide our locking hitch pin on the end. And now the rack is installed. The bike rack right now is in its folded up position. It does have the ability to fold up and tilt away, which we'll get into in just a little bit. But while it's folded up, I want to take the time to measure and see how much length we're adding to the back of our vehicle in this position. So from the bumper to the furthest point back, it's about 17.25 inches. So when it's condensed, it is quite condensed. It doesn't stick out very far. From the bumper to the closest point that it's going to be to your vehicle will probably be one of these cradles. That's going to come in at about 4 inches there. But with the anti-rattle bolt, there's not a lot of up and down movement. There's always going to be a little bit with the adapter sleeve, but not enough that I would be worried about it making contact with my vehicle. To get the rack unfolded so we can actually load up our bike, you will have to start by pulling this green lever in the back. It's a little bit difficult to get to, but nothing terrible. And when it's folded out, I'll just take the time right now to see how much distance we've added to the back of our vehicle. In the folded out position, from the furthest point back, probably this cradle actually is about 26.5 inches. So just about doubles the amount of room that's adding to the back of your vehicle when it's folded out like this. While I undo these straps in preparation for getting our bike loaded, it's a good time to point out a couple things about these cradles. They are wide enough to support up to a 5-inch tire width bike, so you are able to get fat bikes on here as well. And as you can see, this knob down here, you're able to turn and move the back cradles along the rack if you need to accommodate different wheelbases up to 50 inches. And the straps are long enough built in to accommodate those fat bikes, so you don't need an adapter strap. There are a couple of different approaches that you might want to take when you're getting the bike on this rack. You have the option to pull this lever and get the center mast up and leave the hooks where you think you might need them, maybe at the highest point, so you can just tilt them down afterwards, or pull them down rather. If you have the center mast up and you're trying to get the bike on, you might have some clearance issues with the back of your tailgate, and you might have to wiggle them around. You also have the options to remove these hooks entirely, which is a nice feature, and then you might have a little bit less space taken up by the center mast to get the bike on. Or you might just want to try to have the mast down entirely, get the bike on, hold it steadily by the frame, and then pull the mast up and get the hooks down. However you do it though, it's still going to be kind of a challenge to get the bike on with the center mast design. For me, I'm going to attempt to go for the center mast without the hooks on. I just feel like that's going to be the easiest in our case to avoid any sort of contact with our vehicle. So just lift the bike up, get it in the cradles. Our pedal is getting stuck on the center mast here, so I'm going to have to tilt it forward a little bit. And now we can start with the longer hook. Get that around our frame. Again, getting stuck on the pedal. And then put the smaller hook on top, facing the other way, for if you want to get another bike on there as well. Now we can tighten our straps at the bottom. You might run into some issues with the spokes getting in the way of the strap. Not a big deal. All you have to do is rotate your tires. We kind of got lucky here with our cradles being in the right position, but if they're not, again, they do have the ability to slide on either side, forward and back. Hopefully, if you're doing this at home, you set them once, you put the same bike on the same spot, and you won't have to keep changing those. One of the nice features about this bike rack, though, is the ability for it to tilt away. So, pulling this green lever, holding on to the center mast, you can tilt the bike towards you, which gives you more room to access your tailgate. I'm not going to give you enough for the tailgate to clear entirely. If you move the pedal out of the way, it still will eventually make contact with the cradle there at the end, as you can see. So you have a lot of room to get things out of the bed if you might need to, but you definitely can't sit on the tailgate, change your shoes or anything like that. But to tilt it back up is pretty straightforward. Same thing, push it up and it'll click back into place. As you can see through our backup camera, when you're living with this bike on the actual rack, it's going to take up a lot of your view, but you can still see through quite a bit. However, if you have two bikes on there, you're probably not going to have a great view. This is an e-bike rated rack, and it is capable of supporting up to 60 pounds per bike. So it is sometimes a little bit difficult to get the bikes on and off, and there are some other competitive options out there that have ramps in the event that accessibility is something that you need. Overall, I think it does a good job. It does make contact with the frame of our bike, so if you were transporting heavier carbon frame bikes, or if you had an alternative frame style bike that was really aggressive, you might have to pick up a bike adapter bar. But when it folds up, it condenses quite a bit, and it does have a nice tilt-away feature. So those are a couple good options. If you wanted to compare it to something that does have a ramp, we do offer both the Yakima on-ramp, which stores with the ramp on, and the Hollywood Rack's Destination E, which has a nicer ramp, but you're going to have to find somewhere to store it. Overall, though, I think that the Swagman Current does a solid job, and it's a nice fit overall for a 2022 GMC Sierra.